Meet Dave of Delusions of Grandeur, actor, producer, and director of films like Tales of the Forgotten. He has come to assemble a team of freaks, geeks, and even worse, film nerds, to discuss films ranging from mainstream to downright crazy. There's Tammy, car enthusiast, and Dave's fiance, Dustin, reptile expert and overall horror collector, Jake, environmentalist and fine art film critic, and finally Brandon, a therapist with a love of film that can only be seen as insanity. Together under Dave's leadership, they are Inside Movies Galore. Enjoy the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, SeptumSin. And Dave is out again. This time not because he's sick. Actually, Dave is feeling better, but his internet is not. Which also, because Tammy is also on the same internet, well, she got knocked off too. But I am here with Jake, and we might have Dustin here a little bit later, and we got to debut our new opener for the show. So what do you think, Jake? Well, what do you think of the new opener?
Oh, it's interesting.
Yep. We had to pull from a lot of stuff that wasn't Inside Movies Galore because there's not really a lot of footage of us on there. It's just, our icons talking, So I pulled a lot from this year's Versus Awards on SeptumSin versus the World, which you should watch because we put a lot of work into it. And if for some reason it does get to, 1,000 views, I will think about doing another one eventually because we worked hard on that bad boy. But enough about us. That's what happens when my channel, when basically, we're SeptumSin versus the World, group-wise, takes over Dave's channel. But today we're actually here to discuss the 2001 film Shrek. We're starting Shrek month, and so we're going to cover the first 4 films in the series. No Puss in Boots, sorry, fellows. To me, we probably would have been better off if we did Shrek 1, 2, and then Puss in Boots 1 and 2. I think we would have been better off that way, but I wasn't calling the shots on this one. Yeah,
higher quality there.
But yes, this is, of course, like I said, 2001 film Shrek, animated by DreamWorks and directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jenson. So, of course, this is a fairy tale about an ogre who lives in a swamp, and he wants to be left alone, but nobody wants to leave him alone. So he has to go rescue a princess so that he can get his swamp, the deed to his swamp, so he can be left alone. I think that's pretty well the whole concept, that and the onions. But with that being said, I guess we can go around the crowd tonight and see about first impressions. So, Jake, was this your first time seeing Shrek?
Oh, definitely not. I think I saw this in the theater. To be honest, I don't remember with certainty. I think I did. I remember when the movie came out, this was basically DreamWorks' first big animated film. I think they did a couple others, but it was like one of their early, we are here, we are DreamWorks movies and the obvious ribbing that Disney takes at the expense of this story. For those who know the backstory of DreamWorks, it is unsurprising. So I had heard about this. I was interested in it. It got a lot of positive buzz when it came out, and I've always loved the movie. I think it's watching it this time, it became kind of painfully aware that visually it does not hold up as well as one might hope, but for its time it was pretty good visually. For its time, actually, it was quite impressive visually. It has a phenomenal soundtrack, great voice acting all around. It's just a good solid film that is a fun but it's simultaneously a spoof on and homage to the entire fairy tale catalog, and it's good times. So yeah, I couldn't even guess how many times I've seen this. This is the first time in a while, but it's definitely one that has long been a favorite.
Well, this is obviously the first time I've seen this film. I mean, I thought it was like a green Smurf on there.
Obviously.
But I've never seen the Smurfs either, or any animation for that matter. I have never seen anything animated. And that's probably a lie. But with that being said, I think Shrek was actually a fun film for me when I first saw it. Who knows how long ago? It has been a while. 2001, I was out of high school. I was in college at the time this came out. So it's hard to say whether I actually... It's hard to say whether I actually saw this in theaters or not. It's very possible. I mean, the group I was with at Roanoke, we did go to theaters to see stuff. But I really don't know. I agree with you, though, that the animation is definitely a bit rough. I do think that Pixar had it right at the time when you're dealing with a lot of this early level animation to try and shy away from real life people because they look different in the older style of computer animation. But it's still, I think, held up with amazing voice acting, excellent writing, and amazing soundtrack, which we'll get into all of those as we go. So to me, I do think that this still holds up, but yeah, animation-wise, definitely shows its age there. I think that's also why this one doesn't hold up quite as well as something like, say, Toy Story. Or what was Pixar working on at the time? What was 2001?
I believe, if memory serves, this came out the same year as Monsters, Inc. I'd have to...
Oh, well, yeah, Monsters, Inc. was like worlds ahead at that point. So it's... but still, DreamWorks definitely threw the gauntlet down with Disney on this film.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we can start with our gauntlet tossing.
Yeah.
And
although, notably, this was the year, I think this was also the first year that they did animated feature, I think. And I'm just double checking here to make sure I'm remembering that correctly, but maybe not. Let's see here.
Well, I mean, it does make sense because at the time, this one still looked pretty good for 2001.
Yeah.
Pixar is a very a very high bar to get over. So they can't all be that.
So this was the okay, that's how it went. I was trying to remember because I was like, because technically this is the same year that Spirited Away came out, but that also won the Oscar. So I was like, why? How'd that happen? Yeah, Shrek was, I think, the first movie ever to win animated feature. And because of the time release schedule, Spirited Away was at the next year. And yeah. So even though technically it came out in 01, it came out in America a little bit later. But yeah, it's a solid. This is a solid one, and good times. And I just flipped back to my IMDb page. You know, they run those little trailers in the background, and I just flipped it up to one of my favorite scenes where Farquaad is trying to get the magic mirror to cooperate, and the his guard holds up a little hand mirror and punches it. It's like,
I do wonder how that would look, how Shrek would look if it was done in animation styles today. I wonder how that would have gone across. I mean, you could take the same voice acting and even the same blocking and just animate it in like modern style. But there is a new Shrek coming out, so
of course there is. Yeah.
Yep. Now they got teenage Shrek children or something like that in it.
Oh yeah. I think I had heard something about that. Yeah.
It's a fun all the way around.
Oh yeah.
And once again, those collections are outdated.
Yeah.
But with that, I guess we'll go ahead and get into the plot. Of course, as we start off with an excellent song by Smash Mouth that everybody knew at the time.
Yeah.
Partially because of this movie, but partially because it's an awesome song.
Well, and also it was the theme song for Mystery Men, which was only a couple years old at this point.
Yeah, but who saw Mystery Men, really?
Yeah. Well, I did. I know I saw that one in theater.
You were like the one of 5 people who saw it.
But yeah, but I will. No, there were more than 5. But whatever. There were probably twice that in the theater. But,
I mean, I liked Mystery Men. Don't get me wrong. It's just it unfortunately did kind of flop, which is
yeah.
If I was to say which one of the two probably was more Smash Mouth oriented, I would say it was probably this one that got most of the views for that.
Well, according to IMDb, the song was a placeholder. They were planning to put something else in, but apparently test screenings went so well that they were like, oh, we're going to keep this and we're going to ask them to sing another song for the movie. So, of course, they end with I'm a Believer.
Well, keep it going for just a bit. I'm going to have to be back real quick. Okay.
So, I guess we're probably going to... He already said a little bit about the basic plot setup. I think the big thing to keep in mind here is that Farquaad. Well, we don't meet Farquaad right away, and we don't really hear his name right away. But Shrek is a loner. He lives in a swamp. He is very antisocial. Like extraordinarily antisocial. One of the things we see during that all-star sequence is him cheerfully painting a keep out sign that he posts, in the swamp. And he is doing quite well until his calm is shattered. We see a scene where various people are presenting fairy tale creatures for bounties, basically. Some of the royal guard are taking bounties, and that's where we meet Pinocchio, who is a recurring character throughout the series, and also where we meet the donkey, who is, of course, one of the main characters, played by Eddie Murphy, talking donkey.
It does him well with that part. He did find. I mean, he was doing a lot of children's stuff during this time. Some of it good, some of it is Haunted Mansion. But still, this one was kind of a breakthrough role in his child-friendly career because everybody knows him as Donkey.
Yeah.
Because he had that one, and he played Mushu in Mulan. That one wasn't too far from that. I can't remember whether it was the little... Was it 2001, 2000?
What?
Mulan.
Mulan was like 97, I think.
Was it? Huh.
Yeah, it was a little earlier. Let me double check, but I feel like 98. Okay.
So, I mean, it was not his first foray into fantasy voice acting.
I forget Ming-Na Wen is in Mulan. So I just found out last night that she's going to be in the new Karate Kid movie.
Very
the actual voice of Mulan is Ming-Na Wen. Okay, very cool. We're watching previews, and my brothers are like, "Is that Agent May?" And I'm like, "Yep." Very cool. And of course,
that is.
of course, Shrek is played by Mike Myers, who apparently Myers' pal Chris Farley was originally supposed to play the role, but he passed, I guess, in early production or whatever. And they had to convince Myers to take over the role, but he now has made the role his own. It's like one of his main roles that people know him for.
I don't know what it would be like.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine Shrek as anybody else, especially Chris Farley of all people.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of what might have been. Like another one I read that is interesting is it's hard for me to imagine a different Lord Farquaad. John Lithgow just knocks that one out of the park. But apparently they approached Alan Rickman and he decided,
that would work.
Oh, it would work beautifully.
It would be different, but it would work.
Apparently Rickman decided to go with a slightly different role. He had a choice between Farquaad and Severus Snape. And, he probably made the right choice. But
you know how it is.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect. Wait till I get going. Where was I?
Indeed. So basically, like I say, Donkey ends up escaping using fairy dust and runs right into Shrek's swamp where,
Shrek helps him out, but mainly because Shrek considered the rest of them assholes.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
It's interesting that that we are dealing with a egomaniac despot who is trying to deport all the undesirables.
Yeah, pretty much. Because we come to find out Farquaad, he runs a little place called Dulac that is pretty clearly a thumbing of the nose at Disney World.
Oh, they were definitely jabbing. They were doing jabs at Disney at that point.
And as the song goes, Dulac is the perfect place. Farquaad wants everything just so. And, actually he reminds me of, now that I think about it, you're talking about despots who are mad with power. And it's like Albert Brooks's character in the Simpsons movie. And one of the best moments in Simpsons, it's like talking about, you want a bunch of hard guys and a bunch of soft guys, and you want to line them up, big, small, whatever. He says all this weird, random stuff that makes no sense. And this guy's like, "Sir, you've gone mad with power." Of course I have. You ever tried going mad without power? It's boring. No one listens to you.
Yes, indeed.
But yes,
they did a lot of little in jokes with this.
Oh yeah,
I think one of the things that did help this one over the edge when it came to other animated features at the time is it wasn't just speaking to kids. Now Pixar had a good way of subtly doing it, but this one was not as subtle on it. It had humor that was definitely geared to young adults.
Yeah. Well, it's like the first time Shrek sees the castle. He's like, you think he's compensating for something?
Yeah.
Which, of course, Donkey later repeats that observation to Fiona.
But so yeah, it's one of those things that I think was
Yeah.
good because it helped with the reach, because Disney was kind of sort of going into another slump at the time, I believe.
Oh,
Not
they were
Pixar,
in a slump. They
because
were
this
in a
was what was the Disney film out this time?
I think it was maybe Treasure Planet.
Oh, then yeah, they would definitely been in the slump at that point.
Let me see here. No, Treasure Planet was 02, so it might have been Atlantis.
So, I mean, they were starting to go downhill.
Yeah, Atlantis, The Lost Empire came out the same year this one did.
Because that still did pretty well, but Treasure Planet was considered somewhat of a flop at the time for Disney.
Both of them have their
No point.
supporters now. I have yet to see either one, honestly. But
I liked both of the movies. They're both excellent films. But that said, I also like, a lot of. Actually, I like majority. I don't like Home on the Range all that much, but not many people do. So
I think part of the reason as well why I noticed this one when it came out and why I liked it so much was I was going through my I'm too cool for Disney phase, and really this one and Spirited Away and Monsters Inc. all were fairly instrumental in helping bring me back into being a fan of animation, which I have never gotten away from.
And it kind of rode the winds of like other animation that was adult oriented that was coming out at the time. I mean, South Park had come out in '99, and I mean, this isn't as raunchy as South Park, but people were loving having this in jokes.
Even Monsters Inc. has the Fargo joke. The Fargo in joke where Steve Buscemi references Fargo by saying he's going to put someone through the shredder. Like, that's something most kids are not going to catch or get.
Well, again, I think Pixar, I always look at it like that. Pixar was always on another level.
Mm-hmm.
And DreamWorks, quality-wise, wasn't quite able to go toe-to-toe with Pixar, but this one came close. And I think a lot of it really was it appealed very well to not just children, but also to teens and to young adults very well.
I would say DreamWorks has done a good job of maybe not matching Pixar.
Well, I think the second film, now I think Shrek 2 easily matches Pixar blow for blow.
Shrek 2, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Getting away from this franchise, though, all three of the How to Train Your Dragon movies are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. They are phenomenal films.
They have had some really, really good films. But, But
this is really the one that picked that, not Pixar, that DreamWorks had that kind of had it fly off. And this really was the gauntlet thrown down.
Right.
And, for that, they did good. I mean, like I say, it's a lot of in jokes. As you said, we go to that. I mean, they had those little jokes. I keep remembering them doing the little small world after all thing. It's like, clean your hands. Then it turns out like, wipe your face. Say instead of the, and that was great. I thought.
Well, they set it up with a comment about the grass, and so
grass,
it's like,
It was really a fun thing. And of course, him meeting Farquaad, as you said, Shrek comes in and improves his combat skills. Mm-hmm. And I thought the action here looked pretty good.
Right. Well, if I remember correctly, Farquaad's introduction was widely considered like one of the classic scenes. And it's the one where he is torturing the gingerbread man for information. And it's like he comes up. We see there's like a series of camera tricks, where we don't know that this guy until he walks through the door, and we go, "Oh my god!" Now, some people might take offense at the film's heavy reliance on short jokes, but there are a lot of short jokes because let's face it, Lord Farquaad is not a tall person.
Yes. Do you know the Muffin Man?
Right. But he comes in and he says something to Gingy, and Gingy has that moment, "Eat me!" He spits sprinkles at him, and it's like, Gingerbread Man has a little mouth on him, actually, but it's
Oh, not the gumdrop buttons.
right. But yeah, that's a good time. And I believe, wasn't that the scene where they brought in the magic mirror? I think it
They
was.
located it in their purge because Farquaad wants his perfect kingdom, so therefore all of those fantasy creatures they make it imperfect. So he's deporting them all to Shrek's swamp.
Well, and the mirror also informs him that technically you're not a king.
Yeah.
But you can become one by marrying a princess, you know.
To me, I disagree with this because, I mean, yes, fairy tale logic is understandable.
Yeah.
But as far as things are concerned, he's got a kingdom. He's the head of that kingdom.
Yeah.
He's the king.
Well, yeah. Or he could choose, perhaps, to change his title and be like,
exactly.
Hey, I'm a king. Yeah.
It's good to be the king.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I need to get that. I need to capture that video. But yeah, I mean, he's given the mystery date rundown, which again, that is a my parents level reference.
Well, yeah, and some of the comments too, like, you know, they introducing Cinderella, he says something like, she's an emotionally abused shut-in, you know, and then with Snow White, she lives with 7 men, but she's not easy. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, yeah, these are more for your parents.
Well, you get to introduce the Snow White a little earlier where they're all invading Shrek's space and they try to put her up on his table.
Right.
They just been carrying her around with them.
Yep.
And I like all the little fantasy creatures they have, like 3 blind mice coming in and one of them biting Shrek's ear, like, this is horrible cheese.
Right.
But Shrek does take out Farquaad's little knights that are doing the doing the fight for who gets to go and rescue the princess, because Farquaad ain't going himself.
Oh yeah.
And then Shrek takes out all of them because Farquaad's like, okay, take out the ogre, and whoever takes out the ogre wins. Well, the ogre took them out.
Technically, Donkey helps.
Yes, rolling the keg on a few.
Yeah.
We get to see Shrek is a badass as an ogre is considered. I still think that the best scene of knights having to do a competition to win like the right to go slay something was in Jabberwocky, which is a movie that I otherwise kind of despise, but the scene where everybody keeps dying off, so they eventually have to resort to hide and seek, and you've got the knights in armor as they're trying to sneak. It just always gets to me, and this kind of, I don't know why it reminded me of that, but but yeah, Shrek has been chosen as the champion to go rescue the princess. And in return, Farquaad will give him the deed to his swamp and let him evict all the fantasy creatures from it.
Yeah.
So he's got his motivation. Donkey's just kind of along for the ride.
Well, Donkey is, he feels like he's found a friend and he wants to help his friend out, you know, and obviously he feels that kinship much sooner than Shrek does, but yeah.
I do like that. I do like that whole thing. It's like sleepover in the morning. I'm making waffles.
Right.
But that's when you get the whole onion discussion as they're walking through the corn going back. Like, oh, very sorry, onions, because they have layers. And Donkey is not getting it.
Right. You know, he's like, well, no one really likes an onion. And cake, everybody likes cake, and cake has layers. You know? Yeah. It's he just doesn't get that Shrek doesn't necessarily want to be liked. He just wants to be left alone.
Well, I mean, and the whole concept, if you look at it, if there's one overarching theme to this film, it is that nothing is as it seems on the surface.
Right.
You know, I mean, the most obvious story is with Shrek and Fiona, but
Yeah.
it's the same for most. Most of the characters that you see are not what they appear, except for maybe Farquaad. I mean, the dragon that we see here,
Yeah.
Donkey to a degree is more to him than just somebody who just talks all the time.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a cool concept that they threw together.
Yeah. And even some of the characters who are basically used as one-off jokes in this one come back later in the series and get a little more, so it's kind of fun. And then of course some of the ones introduced later have that going on. And then of course there's also the kind of subverting expectations that you get from using established characters. And of course a lot of what they use are characters that Disney made famous, like Cinderella or Snow White or whatever, but made famous. Maybe that's not the right way to put
Even
it.
the Three Little Pigs.
Yeah, you got the Three Little Pigs, you got the Three Blind Mice, you got the Three Bears. And I got to say, the joke involving the Three Bears was dark, but I liked it. But
when did Hoodwinked come out?
What's that?
When did Hoodwinked come out?
Hoodwinked came out, I think, in 2006, but that's one that really owes a debt to this one.
I was going to say that one. There were several. I mean, a lot of animation took cues from this.
Yeah, Hoodwinked was 2005, and actually one of my favorite anime, Okami-san and Her Seven Companions, definitely reminds me a lot of this one. In the way that they kind of take a bunch of established characters and just present very different versions of them. It's pretty fun. And you get certain ones that get, well, like I just saw this scene of Fiona fighting the Robin Hood and the Merry Men.
Yeah.
That's a very different take on
well, that's one thing that I will say. There are some references, and the problem with pop culture references is that they can get dated.
Yeah.
And
the Matrix one was overused.
Yeah, it was overused at the time, and now a lot of people may not even get that, except for people maybe our age. But because a 20-something person's probably never even bothered to watch The Matrix, unless they're a film like person. So some of these, I'll admit, these references.
I would say The Matrix gets more viewing even now than that, but yeah.
But I mean, they get to the castle. Donkey helps defeat the dragon by winning over the dragon.
Right.
It's like, you're a lady dragon.
Yeah, it turns out Fiona's not the only one really horny from a long time being cooped up in the castle. And so, I got to admit, if there's one thing about the series that is a little squicky, that's a little hard to buy, it's the idea of this massive dragon pairing up and mating with this little baby donkey.
Well, if you go by D&D rules, dragons shape change.
Well, there is that. There is that. Yes.
They didn't show that this dragon could do it, but it's possible.
What's that?
We don't get to know whether this dragon did it, but
that's like I said, we don't see it, but yeah.
But Shrek manages to use that distraction time to go rescue Fiona, and there's no question about whether there was consent or not. There, she definitely wants to be kissed.
Yes.
She tries to do the whole Snow White thing of, okay, I'll just sit there, pucker my lips, and he'll kiss me and wake me up, and then he shakes her away.
Yeah. Basically, she has actually at one point he's like, "You've had a lot of time to think about this, haven't you?" It's like she has been thinking about this for years, and she has this idea of how it's all supposed to go, and it's all supposed to be so perfect and by the book. And it's clear he has never read the book or cared to.
Well, I mean, he is an ogre after all.
Yeah, exactly. He probably used it for toilet paper.
But I mean, there's a nice chase scene where Donkey and Fiona manage to escape the dragon using the chain to kind of do a choker chain thing after the chandelier gets around her neck.
Right.
And they manage to set off. But instead of trying to go straight through the night like Shrek wants, especially after he reveals his face and she's like, okay, fine, let's go to Farquaad. They end up stopping for the night because she's like, no. So she kind of hides in a cave while Donkey and Shrek kind of just sit there and kind of talk. And they kind of bond. They have a nice little friendship bonding moment there where they're kind of like, he's pointing out the stars and each star being an ogre.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, you think about it. I mean, we all look at the stars and we see ourselves, our own whatever portraits are up there.
Any donkeys up there? Yes, there's one. Gabby, the small and annoying. Oh, I see it. It's that one. No, that's the moon. Yeah. But when Fiona insists they stop, it's one of the first times we see that she's not just a pushover damsel in distress. Like, she actually scares them into stopping. It's like,
she knows what she wants, and
it's like, we're going to stop now.
But I mean, she does make it up for them by making breakfast after a actually slightly disturbing scene.
Yeah, we have that nice little Disney moment where she's singing with the bird, and somehow she manages to force that bird to explode from hitting too high of a note. And then she decides to take its abandoned eggs and cook them for breakfast.
There's a lot of this little, like, slightly mean humor in this. Right. That's also where she is, where she is met by Robin Hood and his band of merry men.
Yes,
as they try to liberate her.
He's a very French Robin Hood, and in the Pepe Le Pew version of he's maybe not as bad as Pepe Le Pew, but he does this whole song and dance number that she ends up interrupting. She's like, comes in, kicks him in the head, and knocks him out. Like, God, that was annoying. And that starts a battle royale between her and all the merry men. And again, we get to see that she's not just a pushover; she actually kicks their asses.
But that's a time where Shrek kind of falls a little bit for her.
Right.
They start developing a nice relationship on their 2-day trip.
Right.
Well, I guess fantasy logic. The whole thing where she's catching the flies and gives him the fly candy.
Yeah, I guess you could call it cotton candy-ish. Like, grabs a spider web and goes around catching flies. I guess the spider is the chewy center.
So since you are a nature expert, or at least as much of one as we have here. So, what do you think of the biology of blowing up a frog and a snake and making them into floating balloons?
Oh, I found that to be one of the most disturbing moments in the whole movie. That was hooked up. Pardon my French. But yeah, it makes more sense for the frog than the snake, but still.
So they do make it there, and one of the songs I think is kind of cool where they're. I don't remember which song is playing this one, but I also remember the Proclaimers song that they played during one of those journey scenes, which was pretty good. And,
but not I Would Walk 1,000 Miles.
No, not that one.
Not that one.
I'm on my way.
Yeah. What do we got here? We got
great song though.
Yeah, there were a lot of good solid ones. The sequence with the where he's fighting the knights in front of Farquaad. They played Joan Jett, Bad Reputation. That was kind of a fun needle drop there. Yeah, here you go. I'm on my way. Yeah, that was one of them.
But there's a lot of cool. I mean, I've got a greatest hits for the Proclaimers, which oddly enough, it was not that 500 Miles song that got me interested in them, and they do have some pretty cool songs. I've enjoyed listening to it.
Good deal.
But they stop this time at this windmill, and Donkey actually does find out that Fiona turns into a ogre at night, and she has that whole thing like where she is one way during the day and at night as another, and then of course True Love's kiss gives part to True Love's form.
And he's like, "Oh, that's so beautiful. Did you write that? It's a curse. It's a witch's curse."
So, and of course, she's talking about like how she's hideous. Shrek overhears it because you got to have a scene like this, which always, I'm sorry, but this is such an overused tactic that it, even at 2001, it was overused.
Oh, yeah.
So it's probably one of the weaker sections of the film for me. I always hate it when they do that. It's just like, okay, yeah.
It's like textbook romantic drama. You gotta have, if everything's going along smoothly, something has to screw it up, and misunderstandings seems to be it's an easy way to do it. And it's a convenient way to do it. And yes, there are times where it's very well done, and there are times where it is annoying as hell. And I'll admit, in a movie, it's less annoying than in TV, because in TV, you sometimes have to invent different ways to keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that gets really old after a while. But in movies, you can do it once and be done with it. But yeah, Shrek, of course, when he confronts her the next day, he's like, "Oh yeah, I heard everything," and that's also a slightly overused line, but it is
and never giving the other person the chance to explain.
Right, but also claiming you overheard everything when you walked into the middle of a conversation. It's
which
like,
he does. So yeah, he spends the night going getting Farquaad and having them come to him, and that's kind of sad in its own way, but aggravating. But it does lead to one of the cooler scenes, in my opinion, whereas they have a Rufus Wainwright rendition of the what was his name, of the Leonard Cohen song Hallelujah.
Was it Rufus Wainwright? IMDb says John Cale.
Rufus Wainwright, according to the Shrek. At least that was the Rufus Wainwright was the artist. I've got it over here.
What were you looking at?
I've got it on Wikipedia, and I've got it on the soundtrack.
Okay, well, the soundtrack doesn't mean much, because sometimes for rights issues, they'll put out something different than what was actually on the movie. And that could have been the case.
The overview is Rufus Wainwright, 2001 Shrek, pop rock. Yeah.
Huh. Well, like I said, IMDb says something else entirely, so one of them's wrong. But whatever. Well, I don't remember. But whatever the case, it is a cover.
Okay, it's covered by John Cale and Rufus Wainwright. See, there you go. So IMDb was like, screw Rufus Wainwright. We're just saying John Cale.
That's not very nice at all.
But Rufus Wainwright's the one singing it. In any case, yeah, I think it's a beautiful rendition of it. I actually like it better than the Leonard Cohen version. And it does fit very well with the scenes and the kind of sadness in it in the lead up.
Oh, yeah. And now one could argue that that song is overused in the movies, but this definitely is one of the better uses of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shrek does get his swamp back.
Yeah.
And it's Donkey that kind of gets the fire under his ass, essentially. But he does meet up with the dragon and make amends after seeing what happened between Shrek and Fiona.
Well, Donkey's out there putting logs and stones down, and Shrek's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I think you of all people would recognize a wall." He's like, "Yeah, the wall's supposed to go around the swamp, not through it." And that's where Donkey's like, "Hey, I helped save her. It's my swamp too," So he basically forces Shrek to, not just retreat, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he finally forces Shrek to listen.
Yeah.
And to understand that he has been a dick this whole time. Which, I gotta give it that. The character has been a dick throughout the entirety of it. With good reason, but at the same time, he's never really tried to open up to people who were trying to work with him. And that was that kind of come to a Jesus moment where he's like, aha.
Well, he's like aggressively antisocial. It's actually, would you feel like this would have a clinical level of antisocial tendency here, or?
Well, I wouldn't say totally clinical because he recovered pretty quickly.
Well, this is true.
He just never really had a chance to recover.
Yeah.
Because most of the people he ever interacted with were always trying to fuck with him.
So in a lot of ways, Shrek's got a lot in common with the Grinch.
So, I mean, it's just he finally had some people who, when he had people who were not like out to get him, or even wanted to be his friends, or even fell in love with him,
or just scared of him. Like so many people are just plain scared of him. It's like,
And like I say, and the whole thing is played excellently by Michael Myers. And,
yes.
But, and again, this is why I find the concept of the other guy that was going to play him, Chris Farley, I can't imagine Shrek being played with that complexity. I mean, Jack Black has been around so that he's no longer considered a Farley clone, which is unfortunately how I saw him originally, because that's how he was portrayed essentially in a lot of the films after Farley's death. But Farley really never had a chance to branch out beyond Chris Farley.
Right.
So I have a hard time really seeing it done any other way, because I feel like they would have typecast him, and they would have just had him be that weird, obnoxious version of Chris Farley.
Like I would say, even just if you just even look strictly at their work on Saturday Night Live, I think Myers had more diversity of roles than Farley did.
Myers was a character actor. Still is, really.
Yeah.
So, it was really easy for him to move into any... That's one of the disadvantage of a character actor is no one takes you serious. But the advantage of it is that you can literally... Actually, being a character actor works best in voice acting. Yeah. Which is another sad thing about Jim Varney, because Jim Varney was such an amazing character actor that I really think he had a whole new renaissance career in animation.
Yeah,
because he could have played any character. And
one of the movies we were talking about earlier, was it Atlantis that he had a role in?
Yeah,
he was in the first two Toy Story movies. He was definitely starting to do a bunch of that. Yeah.
It's a sad thing.
This movie was interesting because it brought together a bunch of unexpected people. Like, of course, we commented on a video that I guess you said is probably going to be airing in a day or two about how I picked up this set and the Dexter set at the same time.
Oh yeah, tomorrow. Well, no, day after tomorrow. Yeah.
And the two series, this movie and Dexter, season 4, 3, whatever season it is, featured two of John Lithgow's most notably villainous roles. Mostly, he's known for playing kind of decent or really decent guys. Like he usually, and when this movie came out, I believe Third Rock from the Sun had just wrapped, right? Like just a couple years. So he was still very well known for Third Rock from the Sun, where he played a dingus. He played an alien who was not entirely on the up and up, but he was not a bad guy. And for him to turn around and just play such a villainous character, Cameron Diaz was someone that people still did not have any idea. And I will say, I still will defend her as having a lot more depth and range than people give her credit for. And a lot of people did not see being John Malkovich. I had. And so I was much less surprised that she was able to do this and do something with it than a lot of people probably would have been. Cameron Diaz, really?
I say the skill behind the voice acting here was very impressive.
Yeah,
I am glad it shook out the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, I actually would have been interesting is if you switched the roles and Lithgow ended up with Snape's role, and
well, he will be playing Dumbledore,
and of course we had the other as Farquaad. Actually, I will say he would have played a good Farquaad.
Yeah,
and I think that Lithgow would have been a good Snape. I think.
Yeah, Rickman would have been a great Farquaad. He really would have. And he did have, I believe, he did have some voice acting, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's been
not a huge
I
amount.
couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
He had the voice for it. Yeah.
He wouldn't even have probably been that far off as far as his delivery from it. He probably would have been more ominous.
Oh, he would have definitely been more ominous.
But he would have he would have been able to come across because, I mean, shoot, Galaxy Quest, good example of how he could play kind of this insufferable asshole.
Oh yeah.
Or actor, which I could see him doing, pulling into that for that role.
An actor with a capital A, yes.
But
now, of course, the next movie introduces the best member of the cast with Antonio y Banderas.
We're gonna see.
What's up?
I both look forward and don't look forward to the second film because I haven't seen the second film in a long time, and I love the second film, but it makes me worry that it's not going to be as good as I remember it.
Yeah, I hope I'll be able to do that one.
But that's going to be fun for next week, definitely. But this series is well known for getting a lot of good voice actors. Though I do feel like they did waste some of them later on. Like they wasted Monty Python talent for the third one.
Yeah.
But it's all right. But well, it's not all right. But we're not on that movie. So I guess we get to the wedding. Donkey's trying to get him to do the what was it, Mrs. Robbins, the freshman thing.
You're right.
But unfortunately, they ran past it.
You mean The Graduate?
Yeah, The Graduate. Sorry.
Yeah.
And they unfortunately went past that line and already
Fiona is trying to rush things, and because she doesn't want the sun to go down. She knows that if Farquaad sees her, it's all over.
But she was right.
Yeah. But in fact, when he sees her, he says something to the effect of, "Oh, what is that? Oh, no, wait. No, that was when he saw Shrek. Sorry. He's like something like, oh, get that. What is that disgusting thing or whatever?" And Shrek's like, well, that's not very nice. It's just a donkey. But that was earlier. What's up?
I mean, he's just, he showed that what he really wanted was, of course, the titles. Like, it's all right. I'm king. Lock her up.
Well, it was like, this is legally binding. I'm King Sid. He like points at the crown, and it's like, yeah, he doesn't care.
But they have their moment of seeing her transform,
Mhm.
and they look like they are outnumbered and outmanned. But
Mhm.
then Donkey manages to pull the wild card with the dragon,
Right.
which eats Farquaad very quickly.
Yes. Very quickly.
And the knights do not stick around for that.
Right. Well, and also I did like I love how the for the wedding he had the royal guard standing up there with cue cards, and it's like telling people like revered silence, applause, all that stuff, and then when Shrek and Fiona like kiss and they have their moment, and the hooded the executioner like scrawls on there and he holds up the card and everyone's like, "Oh."
And of course, True Love's form was, of course, her staying as the ogre,
Right.
because that is that is what that's the Fiona that he truly loves.
Right.
That's her true self, really. So and they have a real wedding at the swamp, and then they sing the that cover of the Monkey song done by Smash Mouth, I believe.
Yeah.
And
Although with Eddie Murphy helping out for the movie version. Yeah.
and that's the whole of it, really, for the most part.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a pretty good film. I was kind of trying to drag it out a little bit because I wanted to give Dustin time to come on here.
Yeah.
But he may not make it because we won't have much left to go for these other parts, because we've been talking about the other parts the whole time through.
Right. The geez, I thought I was going to make notes of like specific moments to throw out, and I've mentioned a few as we go. I'm probably going to remember some too late, but the what's up?
I think that as far as plot goes, I will say that this one, though it is dated at places, I feel like it is well worth rewatching for the fact that it did start. It influenced so much of pop culture after it.
Oh, yeah.
And pop culture is still today influenced by this film. And a lot of animation is still influenced by this film, including Disney.
Yeah.
There are probably a lot of jokes that you see in Disney and Pixar that were also influenced by this film.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. So it is well done in that manner. Yes, the animation is, well, it's a 2001 animation film with less money than Disney had with Pixar. So you're not going to get like the best of the best, but it still looks okay.
Yeah, they still had some good people behind it. I mean, Spielberg was one of the founders of DreamWorks, and he definitely had money and people that he could rely on who have technical skill. We had Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was a Disney alum, and who was the other one? It was it's SKG. I can never remember.
Katzenberg was the main one that had the feud with Disney.
Yeah, oh yeah. He had left under slightly less than happy terms.
He was kind of forced out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's like, well, fine. I'm going to start my own animation studio with blackjack and hookers. And
right.
Which he did essentially too with Shrek.
Right. Right. Trying to find the... Geez, it's not listed there. There's the Jeffrey Katzenberg and Steven Spielberg are both listed. Katzenberg is a producer. Spielberg is listed as a executive producer. Who was the G? I can never remember. Well, whatever. They were the founders of DreamWorks, and it was like this big... yeah, it really... This was, I think, one of their flagship production.
I think this was their first one that I can think of. Maybe Ant.
It was definitely the flagship production for animation, if I'm not mistaken. But
Let's see, DreamWorks.
let me look this up. This is
Let's see, movies. Let's see here. Movie. Oh, yeah, they did Boss Baby, which everybody loves.
oh geez. Okay, that was one of their missteps.
Let's see. So, yeah,
They did
Ants
the-
was their first film, which
Oh,
that
right.
one was a direct fire because I think
Uh-huh.
Katzberg had left Disney around the time and A Bug's Life was being done, and he was like, "Well, fuck that! I got my own ant movie. I'm gonna make my own ant movie with Woody Allen and Sylvester
Right.
Stallone." And if I'm going to be at all realistic about this, I think that Ants actually held up very well versus A Bug's Life, which was one of Pixar's weaker films.
Okay, so David Geffen was the G in the group.
I mean, Prince of Egypt, which was that thing really did fight toe to toe with Disney at the time.
Yeah.
That thing was epic. El Dorado, which I'll admit I still thought was a Disney film. Chicken Run, where they had Aardman, and then finally Shrek. So,
okay. So there were a couple of others, definitely. Okay, so Amistad was a DreamWorks co-production, and The Peacemaker and Mouse Hunt. So those, I guess, were their first movies, but they were all co-productions.
Mouse Hunt.
What's up?
Mouse Hunt, God.
And then they co-produced Saving Private Ryan. That's a high-profile one. And like you said, Ants and Prince of Egypt, Small Soldiers, Deep Impact, and Polly.
As far as animation, I mean, a lot of those things. They did the Madagascar series. They work with Aardman on stuff like I mean, the Oscar film Curse of the Were-Rabbit was them.
You mentioned Galaxy Quest. That was a DreamWorks co-production. Yeah. So was American Beauty, your favorite.
They also have Kung Fu Panda as a franchise.
Oh, that was a major one with them, yeah.
The Croods, which looked good. It wasn't the greatest, but it looked good.
Okay, so if I'm reading this right,
and Trolls.
If I'm reading this right, I guess the Prince of Egypt must have been their first solo in-house production. Because it looks like they co-produced Ants with Pacific Data Images. They co-produced Saving Private Ryan with Paramount, Amblin, and Mutual Film.
I need to see the Bad Guys.
Yeah. I need to see that too, yeah. Yeah, they had a few.
Lion in the Dark.
Let's see here.
That didn't get a release.
I'm
just looking at some of I was curious about Orion in the Dark, but I don't think it ever got I'm not seeing a movie release for it.
Oh, their most recent release was Dogman, huh?
Yeah, that one actually is very well received. But I'm a little old for that one.
The kids.
I saw Teenage Kraken on my birthday that year. It came out.
That was fun.
It was.
I need to see The Wild Robot. That came out last summer. It's supposed to be awesome.
They prove that they have skill, but they definitely have a lot of misses as well as hits.
The Croods were surprisingly good movies.
But I guess back to production design on Shrek. Yeah. I mean, again, it's showing its age, but I think that for a non-Pixar, the problem is Pixar was in the mix at the time, and they were still leagues above this.
And while the animation quality doesn't quite match Pixar and it doesn't hold up as well, the art design is excellent. The visuals are excellent. They do a good job with that.
I mean, it looks better than Hoodwinked.
What's that?
It looks better than Hoodwinked.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
But it's, I mean, like I say, it was a decent, I mean, in 2001, I'm pretty sure I would have seen this and I wouldn't have gone, eh. I mean, you know, it still looked good for computer animation at the time because computer animation was still, it wasn't in its infancy, but it was still learning to walk at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, even the first two Toy Stories are, I would say, I would need to rewatch them, but from what I remember, I would probably say this is on par with Toy Story 2 or close to it. I mean, you know, it's definitely better than the first Toy Story visually.
I mean, there was a reason why they concentrated more on toys when they were doing their first ones, because that plasticky look allowed for Toy Story to hold up more.
Yeah.
Because that was concentrated on the toys. But yeah, if you look at the humans, especially in the first Toy Story.
Yeah.
Whew.
And that could also be why Monsters Inc. holds up a little better, because it's you got Boo, but other than her, mostly it's monsters. So it's like.
But the hair on those is very well done.
Pretty good, yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the models were very good. And I think that a lot of the other issue is, I think if they went for more cartoony an aesthetic instead of more of a realism-looking aesthetic for the humans, not for Farquaad, but for somebody like Fiona, for instance, as we're looking at her,
right?
She came across as more them trying to go for more of a realistic aesthetic, which did not translate as well in the style because it looks stiff, but still,
it does.
Like I say, we're looking at this with 2025 eyes, and I can guarantee you that the next Shrek movie will probably look nothing like this animation-wise.
Well, probably, especially because they went in a whole different direction with The Last Wish. They borrowed a lot from the kind of animation style that was used in the Spider-Verse movies, and it gave The Last Wish a very different look to it that I think worked pretty well.
So, so I guess music, we've talked about a lot of the music.
Right. We have not spent much time talking about the background music, but this one does have a score by Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell. And I personally, I think the Shrek theme is classic. It is an absolutely iconic theme. And John Powell, what's up?
It is a memorable score.
Yeah. Of course, John Powell went on to do the music for How to Train Your Dragon, which is an absolutely phenomenal score. So he has done some really good work with DreamWorks. He also did the score for the Kung Fu Panda movies, apparently. And he's done work for other studios. He did music for the Lorax for Illumination. And yes, there's that. And he did Bolt's score for Disney. And a couple of other Disney films as well. And Harry Gregson Williams is one I know the name too, but I don't remember offhand what else he has been known for. Apparently, he did the score for Gladiator 2.
And I'll say one other thing about this before I let Dustin in on.
Oh, okay.
But you can even see in the poster about soundtrack available. And when I talk about films that the song is, I mean, not only does the soundtrack work well, but it is a soundtrack that I can and have listened to on its own. It has a lot of great found music, and as you said, the score is excellent. It is one of the greater scores that you could find when it comes. If you mix it with the found music, it is an amazing piece that is above and beyond a lot.
Right.
A lot of what we discuss here, anyway.
All right. Hey, Dustin.
Hey, team. Sorry about the delay. So,
Yeah.
That's all right. You caught us just in time before we finished up. So, have you seen Shrek before?
so before this year, I tried to do one movie per day, and I was successful for a little bit. One of the first movies I picked for this was I had seen Shrek exactly once in 2001 on a VHS tape that I got for Christmas, and somebody borrowed after I watched it, and I never got it back.
Oh.
And I had never seen Shrek 2, 3, any of those. So,
Wow.
first week of January, I think it was, I sat down and just, went through all of them. And so I rewatched it again today. So I wanted to be sure I remembered more.
Mhm.
But in January was the first time I had seen it since 2001. And it's a hard movie to avoid. Like, even though I had only seen it once, so many of the jokes are so memorable and retold so often, especially if you were in like the age group that it was for at the time. Like, everybody you knew would like quote it or talk about it, or there would be some kind of reference to it. So I almost maybe didn't even need to see it again, because just almost everything in this movie works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was surprised how quickly it blew by too. I mean, yeah, it was like 90 some minutes, and that did take time, but it felt like I put it on and then suddenly it was over.
Yeah.
It's actually a film I think that worked well with two audiences at the time it came out. I think it worked well with, actually, multiple audiences. I think it worked well with ages of young children all the way up to young adults. I think all of them had a very favorable impression of the film when it came out.
I think it was I think that might have been due to my first impression of it, like way back in, this was in I think it was 6th grade. Like it had just come out, and it was still in theaters at the time. And so somebody on the playground was like, it's like that thing, like wash your hands, wipe your face. And so that's the very first thing I can remember about Shrek, period, that I heard from anybody.
Mhm.
And rewatching it, I remembered there was kind of a lot of like, I lost the word. Well, I don't want to say subtle adult humor, but kind of disguised adult humor.
Some of it was subtle and some of it was not as subtle, but there is a lot. We mentioned some of it earlier. Some of the jokes are clearly aimed at adults.
I think it worked really well with college age adults.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe it's because that's how old I was when I saw it.
Right.
But I do know that a lot of other people around my age loved the film because it was just because it wasn't just speaking to children, it spoke to them as well. Though the humor, maybe if I was like 40 when I first saw this film, I probably wouldn't have gotten it as well. But
I mean, it does have an actual like good message to it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there is that. But I think if you were like a college student or like an older teen when you saw this, then you would probably, I would guess you would appreciate like the fairy tale subversion kind of stuff that it was so heavily into, and you would get all of the jokes and still maybe be immature enough to love them all, and so maybe roll your eyes at one or two of them.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I did that with the she'll find out his measure tonight, and it's like, wow, really, guys?
That's you hit it right on the head with, like I was saying, it's like I think that college age was actually one of the perfect ages to see it because of that. You got all the jokes, and you have just enough immaturity to load it.
Right.
Those parts that are kind of like, now it's like, you've grown a little bit. Yeah.
The whole axe that Katzenberg had to grind against Disney did give a few mean-spirited jabs at Disney that and their style of filmmaking. So I think some of the ruder, cruder humor definitely falls into that category. But
Like killing the birds.
The bird thing is hilarious. It's so mean spirited. It is hilarious.
But like,
to me, it played like an accident. So I was like, well, okay, fine.
well, like the
Some people.
we mentioned like there were a lot of jokes at Farquaad's expense that were just basically short jokes. And there was that one line, what was it? Men of Farquaad's stature are in short supply. And it's like, kid's not going to get that joke, I don't think, but an adult definitely would be like, oh.
Well,
I like
a kid would
those
just
armor
think,
head
oh yeah, he is short.
Yeah, exactly.
They wouldn't think about other stuff.
His armor had leg and arm extenders, for goodness sakes.
And Dustin, you mentioned how quickly it went by. That was a comment I meant to make, and somehow we forgot. I don't believe we've mentioned this movie is originally based on a children's picture book by William Steig, just called Shrek. And I've been meaning to read it. I haven't gotten around to it. Maybe I'll read it this week to prepare for next week's. But it's not a big book. And not only that, the movie also with Fiona's story, it does present a new fairy tale that fits right in with every other fairy tale out there. So plot-wise, it really is kind of simple and straightforward, and that's fully by design. There's a lot of references. There's a lot of in-jokes. There is a little more complexity to the story than your average fairy tale. But overall, it is a pretty straightforward plot. So it definitely is possible for them to breeze through it pretty quickly. And yeah, it doesn't feel super long. This movie is entertaining, but it does move along at a good clip. There's no doubt on that.
Yeah, we meet Donkey in like the second or third scene. Like it's very quick, and for some reason, I thought I remembered there being like more time like between introducing Shrek and introducing Donkey. Like it felt like there was like 10 minutes of movie missing from that moment. Like it went by so damn quick.
I think it's one of the powers that it does have. Like I say, I thought it was very well written. They knew their audience. They knew how to play to the audience, and the pacing was excellent. So it's just the only thing that doesn't hold up as well as the animation, but it's not going to hold up as easily in 2025 if you are trying to look at it as a 2025 animated film done by anybody but the Asylum.
Well, I don't think I would go that low. I mean, that's a little unfair. I thought I heard something. Isn't there like a Shrek remaster? Almost like it's a video game now. There's like a Shrek remaster in the works of this first movie.
Oh, there's going to be a new Shrek movie they're working on.
Yeah,
There's like
They're
an
making
actual
a Shrek 5.
But I knew there was an actual Shrek 5. But I thought I had heard somebody. I thought I heard something about like a re-release of this, like with updated effects. Because I remember people sharing like screenshots of it and being upset.
Yeah, one of my coworkers she didn't tell me that's what it was. She just was saying something about the new Shrek, and she was trying to find an image to show me and couldn't find it. But from what I was hearing,
they got purged.
What's that?
It's possible that those images got purged.
Well, yeah. Actually, the conversation we had, she was like, it was the whole thing with Sonic. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. I remember the flap over. People saw the early images of Sonic and they were like, no!
Well, in everyone's defense, like usually when something like that happens, I am very like kind and forgiving, like, oh, it's not that bad. And then I looked at like a couple frames of it, and it's like, fuck this.
Yeah.
What is? Okay, I agree with The most unhinged lunatics on the internet are
Yeah.
right this time. Like,
And to the
there's no
studio's credit,
denying it.
they listened and course corrected. And I personally think Sonic the Hedgehog was a really fun movie and pretty good.
I
But
saw the
yeah,
third one in theaters.
I still need to see the second two. I have been
Yeah, I haven't
slacking
seen
on
it past
those.
the first one.
Yeah.
The second two, honestly, a lot better. They totally rock. They're so cool.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah, the first one was pretty good, but
yeah.
it reminded me of just a more hip version of Hop. Hip Hop.
A hip hop, huh? Is that how
It reminded me of
Ah.
Hop. It really did remind me of Hop.
Yeah.
Did you guys play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle?
Nope.
Probably not. I played some of the older games back in the day. I enjoyed them, but
Well,
I played
let's just say if you did, you will love the third movie.
I played the first 4 Sonic games, though I considered Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles one game. And then I played what's that one? The Sonic Mania, I believe it was.
I have no idea.
I never beat that one, but I beat the other ones there. So hey, it was fun.
I played Sonic 2 like at other people's houses because I did not have a Genesis.
Yeah.
And then when my brother and I got our GameCube in like 2002 or so, we played some of the Sonic GameCube games on there, like because we had to share the console, and we generally really weren't that great about it. Like we fought a lot over it, but there were like stuff that was like his games and stuff that were like my games.
Yeah.
And the Sonic games, I mean, he was a lot younger, so those were more his thing. And so I wouldn't play them very much, but I would play them sometimes. A lot of times I would just watch him play. And that third movie was great. Like, oh man, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy I let some of my local friends like talk me into like going to it with them. Because I was like, is this gonna be like really like immature? And it was like, nope, it was great. Anyway, long digression aside.
Well, I guess I should say, is there anything that is in production or music that you had comment on? Because we got through most of it. Other than that, we were talking about music when you got there. So, is there anything on that you'd like to add to?
Well, the music from Shrek is like that licensed score is just nuts. I mean, I saw people talking about this could be like the best use of licensed music of all time. Like a lot of these drops here. And people had even more praise for Shrek 2, which I'm assuming we're doing next week. So I'll talk about that then. But like All Star, I think it's a safe bet that the reason like Smash Mouth and All Star became so popular is just because of this movie. Like it would not have been like a big like pop hit.
We have been discussing that. We've been discussing that because I actually was a pretty big Smash Mouth fan, and it's kind of funny. This was actually the third high-profile movie in 4 years that they recorded a song for. And All Star was actually the theme song for Mystery Men, which came out in '99. But and they used it. What's that?
That was the response I gave Jacob actually at the time, even though I know what Mr. Ben is.
Did you say what is that?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh, well, you ought to check it out. That's a fun movie. It's got
it is a fun film. It's a good spoof. It's a good spoof superhero film.
Yeah, you got a bunch of losers and rejects. You got Ben Stiller, Hank Azaria, William H. Macy, Janine Garofalo. You know, all kind of fun stuff. And then Paul Rubens, I think, was in there. But the year before that, and I actually had this soundtrack in my truck for about a week. Actually just switched over to a new CD a few days ago. The movie Can't Hardly Wait. They recorded an original song, Can't Get Enough of You Baby. And of course, Walking on the Sun was a huge hit. So they were riding pretty high when this movie came out, but and All Star was already a thing. But I think between this movie and the new song, their cover of "I'm a Believer," I think this movie did kind of kick both of those. That All Star and Smash Mouth, and "I'm a Believer" was a big radio hit too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah.
I was disappointed at the original time that the direction that they went in, because I really liked their original album and their more punk rock style
Yeah, it was all right.
roots. But I also understand that it got big, and
I've always loved "Walking on the Sun." I think it's great.
Well, that was in their first album, I believe.
No, that was the second album.
Okay.
Fleshy Mang was the one that put them on the map, but they did have a more punk album before that.
Yes, they did, which was great.
Yeah,
but or at least to me, it was great. It's like they got less punk as their albums went on.
Oh yeah,
because the second album they did was a little bit punk, and then the third album was next to none. But it became more poppy as they went. But I guess that's what you do. That's what you got.
Well, they became very, very famous for doing movie songs. That's
and you know, and God bless, especially with the lead singer who passed.
Yeah,
not that many years ago, but
it was just a couple of years ago. Yeah,
it's pretty recent. Yeah.
It's
sort of funny that that comes up. I remember one time somebody asked me if I could find them something called Punk Goes Pop. It was like a remix album kind of thing. Like, I think it was like pop bands doing punk songs. I can't remember which direction it went, but I remembered I didn't hear him right, and I thought it was called Punk Does Pop, like in an aggressive way. And I don't know, it was a weird memory we just triggered there. But I think Smash Mouth might have been on one of those.
Well, I mean, I did have Pat Boone Goes Metal. I know Pat Boone in a Metal Mood. Which is hilarious. It's Pat Boone doing covers of metal songs.
It was kind of hilarious, yeah.
Oh, hear a lot of those like nightclub style song versions of.
Well, what was it? What do you do?
In Dawn of the Dead, there was a lounge version of Down with the Sickness. I think it was.
Oh my gosh,
that was really different.
For anybody who might still be listening here, if you get a chance, you should check out Pat Boone in a metal mood. I'm sure that it's on YouTube or someplace you could just easily listen to it for free. It is hilarious.
I'm gonna plug the American Psycho comic book soundtrack, which came out last fall and I just learned about. That consists of covers from 80s songs that are mentioned in American Psycho by like more modern bands like Perturbator, like the synthwave guy. But I really love, like, he did a cover of, I guess, Dangerous is a Depeche Mode song, which I did not know. And then Ice Nine Kills has a cover of Walking on Sunshine that is very different in tone.
I bet.
And it's pretty cool. Like, just check it out.
Okay, so I wanted to remember.
But anyway, back to the music for this. I just want to say that I did not remember that much of its licensed music is so overshadowing. I had forgotten about the original score, but watching it again like today, I was really appreciating like how nice like the main theme, like the medieval style, actually is. So.
And am I remembering this correctly? I feel like I'm remembering it correctly that they've actually used a snippet of that theme. It's like the DreamWorks animation theme. And so that's become a big.
It's iconic. You remember it very well.
Yeah. And I wanted to double check on this before I went off and said I was trying to remember Steve Harwell, Smash Mouth singer, died on September 4th, 3 days after Jimmy Buffett. That's like that was. And I'm trying to remember there was someone else who was that same week, but I can't remember who it was.
An era is ending.
Yeah.
And a new era is beginning, which I don't know if I like it or not. But with
Trap House guys say it's the, quote, era of the wolf.
The era of the wolf. Okay.
Time of the wolf. I can't remember exactly how they phrase it, but they just make it sure to say it really ominously. That's all you really need to do.
Well, it's
The potential of 100% tariffs on any film that's not been made 100% in the United States. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I like how that's exactly maybe, 10% of everything? Even stuff like I'm thinking back to like TV like Psych or X-Files. Almost all that stuff is made pretty much entirely in like British Columbia.
Well, yeah, most of X-Files was definitely largely filmed up there. Yeah,
I know Psych was for sure too, because they talked about it a lot in behind the scenes stuff.
Even though X-Files takes place mostly in and around DC, and Psych takes place in coastal California.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much every production of any kind like goes somewhere.
Yeah.
I saw an argument earlier today how it's like, oh yeah, do they know that Lord of the Rings was shot in New Zealand? And it's like, well, they should, because nobody ever shuts up about it.
Well, like a lot of it is still American. I saw Thunderbolts yesterday, and large portions of that were filmed in Georgia and Utah. But I'm sure some of it was international. Probably quite a bit of it. Probably a lot of the FX was chopped out.
It's a pretty big task for less than powerful brains to try and figure out how to break it down. So I have a feeling they're going to be stuck trying to figure out the logistics for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that is kind of an upside. Like, the idea is so impractical. It's like, how do you even begin to try enforcing it?
So with that, let's go ahead and break this down.
Yeah.
And let's do a favorite scene, favorite character, and favorite animated fairy tale film. That's not Shrek. Well, why don't we, since you're just getting here, Dustin, why don't we start with you?
Okay, my favorite character is going to be kind of stupid, but it's the thing I always remember the most from this movie. I think it's the magic mirror, or like the executioner guy, like Hans or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because whenever I think of Shrek, the very first thing that pops in my head is that scene. It's like, isn't my kingdom great? Well, technically, you're not a king, Hans. And just the guy in the hood just like holds up another mirror and like punches it out. And then the mirror's like, well, you're not a king yet. I meant. It's just that just plays in my head every time I think of Shrek.
Oh yeah.
And the mirror is hilarious, and I know it's not like an actual actor doing the comedic timing. I know it's just an animated dude, but like, oh, he sticks out too. And that could maybe be my favorite scene too, actually. Although I do like everything at the castle. Especially if complaining like, well, all the other knights just charged in. It's like, yeah, and then they suddenly burst into flame. Weird.
Right.
And it's like, he does have a really good point. There are a lot of bodies here.
Right. Well, we had said before that like she had this playbook of how she expected everything to happen, and he clearly had not read that playbook and it did not care to. And that's
what? Why would we do that? I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So
I think that was kind of a new thing for like a main quote unquote hero character at the time this came out, because a lot of things did sort of follow like a linear, like the hero would kind of always, or main character would always kind of have some of these qualities, like where that would like matter to him, but Shrek just did not care. So,
So I'm not gonna actually. You know what? Instead of saying favorite, just a film that you've enjoyed that was based on a fantasy property like this, like a fairy tale style property, animated.
The two that come to mind are kind of weird. So the first one that came to mind was Wizards, that really bizarre like sci-fi thing that we watched a few years ago that Will Stout was involved with. Like, that was great. And then the other one, The Water Horse, like that Loch Ness Monster movie, like that's more or less a fairy tale, right? If not maybe a common one in America.
That
Interesting.
was a live action movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. I know which one you're talking about. I was just like, was there an animated one?
Well, I guess the Water Horse itself was in.
Yeah, yeah.
I really, really liked that movie, and I feel bad that like other people like don't remember it. Like I thought it was great.
Well, Jacob, what was your favorite character, favorite scene, and a fantasy animated film based on fairy tale that you liked?
I would say in this particular movie, Fiona's probably my favorite. There's definitely a character in the franchise who is my clear favorite that we haven't gotten to yet, but Fiona is probably my favorite in this one. Scenes, I say this all the time, but there's a lot of scenes. It's hard to pick a favorite. Dustin, absolutely, I agree with you. The scene where he threatens the magic mirror by having the executioner hold up a hand mirror. That was hilarious. It was hilarious. And the part where Gingy yells, "Eat me!" I just always love that. And Brandon mentioned earlier when just it's the way he says it, but where Donkey's going on and on about, you know, all his plans for the night and the morning, and he's like, and in the morning I'm making waffles. just the way he says it always cracked me up for some reason. So I guess I'll probably go with those. Yeah, I'll go with those. As far as if we're talking just the greatest fairy tale movies out there, it's going to be The Princess Bride and Pan's Labyrinth, but those are live action. Animated
ones that you've enjoyed. It doesn't have to be
yeah. But some really good ones. There are a lot of really good ones. And, you know, Disney does make a lot of the really good ones. But so do some of the other ones out there. To pick two that I know are either based on specific fairy tales or specific mythology that maybe might have been overlooked by the mainstream. Isao Takahata's final film, the Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which is based on the legend of the bamboo cutter. And one that I really love is the Cartoon Saloon film, Song of the Sea. Kind of about the whole Selkie legend, which actually I did not know much about Selkies until I saw that movie. So that was a very cool. But both of those lean really heavily into fairy tales that are well known in other countries, but maybe not here. So I enjoy that. And I'm also just going to make another shout out. It's a series, not a movie, but another shout out to Okami-san and her 7 companions, because that was the same basic concept as here, just taking fairy tales and turning them on their heads. And it's a hell of a fun show. You know, it's like, and one that has some personal nostalgia for me, because it was Brandon went out of his way to introduce me to anime, and he dumped tons of titles in my lap. Other people in the gaming group, Brittany and George and whatever, introduced me to a lot. I feel like Okami-san was the first one I found on my own. And so there's some nostalgia there as well. But it really does remind me a lot of Shrek. So I enjoy that one.
Well, my favorite character, I'll say characters, are the 3 blind mice. I don't know why.
They are fun.
They're on briefly, but they do amuse the heck out of me. the favorite scene. Well, a lot of my favorite scenes are covered, so I'm just going to go with the one where he's talking about the onion thing because I did think that was funny. Because he's trying to be a little serious with Donkey, and Donkey's like, "Huh?
Right.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
There's a spelling like an ogre, you know."
Question real quick about the three blind mice. Did anyone else get confused when the fairy godmother turned them into the horse and coachman, and they took Shrek and Fiona away on their honeymoon? But then we have that dance party to I'm a Believer, and you see them playing on the piano again. It's like, what did she create clones of them to turn into?
Inconsistency.
Well, the point of the Cinderella story is that spell does wear off. So,
well, yeah, but they're still driving into the sunset when that scene's going on. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, you might be the only person who noticed.
I didn't notice
play
until
hardball
this
like
time.
So, let's see. As far as fantasy, I have a couple that I thought would be kind of fun to put out. An old one that's actually kind of fun is there is an anime version of Jack and the Beanstalk, which is done in a very weird, ethereal, and almost creepy way. And it is very weird. It was on HBO for a time when I was growing up in the 80s. And I did finally secure a copy, and it is a fun film. It really is. I do enjoy that version of it. One of these days, I'll bring it up. There's also a Cartoon Network film that everybody said, tell me to watch, and eventually I went ahead and watched it. And that's called Over the Garden Wall, which has a very fantasy fairy tale aesthetic, but it is creepy also. And is one that I still really like to this day. Really good film. I would say. So yeah, some fun ones there. And of course, Hoodwinked, if you want to go ones that basically took everything from Shrek.
Hoodwinked is fun.
It was less quality in the animation. Not the second one. The second one was crap. But the first one actually did have a lot of fun to it. And it was very enjoyable.
Squirrel on caffeine.
Dynamite. Well, I guess that was Shrek. Hopefully, Dave's online troubles will be over by next week. And that way Tammy can take back over hosting duty because this is her month, technically, for the movie Shrek 2.
Hopefully, I'll be able to be here because that is a quality film.
So you'll make it back in time just for Shrek 3.
Oh, no, I'm still going to be out of town, but hopefully we'll see what happens.
So you'll make it back in town by the time we do Shrek 4. Even better.
Oh, well, obviously.
You'll make it back for the best of the four, obviously. But let's all enjoy. And of course, before we end up, I guess, Dustin, do you have anything to shout out?
Not at this time, although I have had some ideas for maybe different kinds of content I could make. So I really need to get my life in order before I can create anything worthwhile again. And the revival of my reptile paper, hopefully to branch out into being some kind of coffee table book, should be like maybe my first priority. But I think clean up my apartment first, and then maybe go from there.
What's the gist
on YouTube?
What's the gist of this potential book project?
I mean, it's pretty much just what the paper was when I originally wrote it in 2016. Just discussion on the biology of monster movies, like what's accurate, what's not accurate. What were some interesting ideas, from real biology that were used in the film, if any. Like what was fun about the stuff that was just like totally ridiculous. And I want to also try to be clear in that with So I like watching videos where scientists will talk about, movie monster scenes like that.
Right.
And by far, one of the most annoying things people will do is every scene will be like, well, the shark is certainly much too big. And it's like, yes, we know. What else do you have? Do you got? The shark wouldn't be aggressively attacking people like this. It's like, again, we know, like, just use a little bit, ironically, use a little bit of your brain for this analysis.
Yeah.
Like, there are a few things that are just kind of gimmies,
We touched on that a little bit in our Sharknado discussions about how you kind of have to check your brains at the door with those movies, like but I just had an idea though just now, like they had all those wild different ones in the fourth movie, but they didn't have a tornado go through the South and give us a Gatornado, and I'm a little surprised now that I think about it.
Well, that would be a different franchise.
Oh my goodness. Well, Jacob, anything you want to put forward?
Well,
although
no.
that does remind me of a good joke from way back in, like, I think it was 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So
it does feel way back.
In his first term, I think at some point Trump had the idea, it's like, can't we just nuke the hurricane? Like, that was some news story once.
Oh yeah.
And the guys on the podcast, on the Choppa podcast, were like, it's like a bad sci-fi movie or something. Atomic hurricane. And it's like,
that's where
that phrase, atomic hurricane.
Well, they did end up with a nuke NATO in the fourth film.
Well, we did come across that when we talked about the first film, because we're like, we know where he got that idea from. He watched Sharknado and was like, ooh, this is science.
Yeah, but I bet he did.
I can't get over the phrase atomic hurricane. It makes me giggle every time.
Oh, geez. Well, anyway, I mean, my big project coming up is going to be a big trip where I'm hoping to hit a bunch of bucket list places while they're still there, and very much hoping that the places I won't get to hit on this trip will still be there somewhere in the future. I'm deeply concerned that may not be the case, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing some. My garden is going very well, and I'm getting a lot of veggies out of it, which is very good given the cost at the store. Being able to grow a lot of my own food is quite fun. And just working on various projects, trying to work on my novel, trying to work on an insane database project online, which who knows if that'll ever be completed, but my trip will help me with gathering material for that. And just having keeping very, very busy as usual. Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm from SeptumSin versus the world. In a way, this was a SeptumSin versus the world show because I'm here with my co-host.
Yeah.
And Dustin kind of came in here on the end. But we're here. We love to talk movies and all of that. Matter of fact, let's make that official there temporarily. There we go. But we do like doing movie stuff. We have pickups on occasion. Matter of fact, Wednesday, there's one with me and Jake doing a pickup. I have a new format for solo pickups, which came out last week, which I thought looked pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I do reviews every week, and I try to focus on micro budget films. I'm going to finally run out of the ones that are obligations, and hopefully just start doing ones that I come across that I'm like, ooh, this is nice. Let me talk about those, because obligation ones I can't always be nice about, but those that I'm like looking at and I'm going, that looks good, is there. Desert Fiends is the one that's been doing particularly well, which I felt more of an obligation for, because I helped with editing the physical release on that. But, and I'll still say this, the Desert Fiends has some major pacing issues, as far as effects go, it's AAA Hollywood effects level. So it's quite impressive.
Hmm.
I'm not sure I'd say that for for all of it, but definitely in that level, it was pretty darn good. But yeah, check out my reviews on the channel. Check out Jake as he helps me with some of those, and of course, check out Dave on this channel and on Delusions of Grandeur. What's that?
Don't. Well, I was going to say, don't forget as well to let them know that Wednesday as well, we'll be talking about another animated project that has a lot of the sort of subversive fairy tale feel to it.
We'll be doing animation anticlimax instead of anime anticlimax as we talk about Adventure Time Season 1.
Yep.
So some fun stuff. We're going to be talking about Adventure Time for a few months. Like for Season 1 tomorrow, day after tomorrow, Season 2 at the end of the month, because we're trying to get back to that last Wednesday of the month. And then we're going to take a break for June and July, and then we'll come back to try and hit the rest of the series, and hopefully the role-playing game will be out, and I'll be able to get a game going. So that'll be fun, so to speak. I've even got dice for it. I've got Arby's dice, which would be perfect because they have the meats.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you all have enjoyed this, and of course, check out Dave's other channel, Delusions of Grandeur, where he does occasional pickups and other things, but mostly something similar to this every Sunday. Of course, again, the internet issue kind of foiled that, but they do hope to get back on with a few things. I think they got Ben-Hur 2016. It was one of the more recent remakes of Ben-Hur. They're going to be covering that on the channel, and then I think they're going to be doing another Ring movie. So some fun discussions there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's it, everyone, and I hope y'all stay goodbye, and we will wrap up.
All right. Good night, everyone.
What's
Good night. Like, share, subscribe. Find me at the Crypt of Horrors and make me feel bad about not posting stuff. Like by subscribing.
You know what's weird is that I was looking for the opener, and I'll have to show you that after this because we have a new opener for the show. And I actually was trying to find some footage of you, and I was like, I finally found your channel. And I got you in the Freddy costume, which was pretty cool, with the Jason mask on. But
I need to, as soon as I get back into shape, I need to take a bunch of new pictures, like in my cool horror stuff, because a lot of the stuff I used to do, like the dressing up and like the costumes and like photo shoot kind of things I would do, almost all of that stuff was destroyed when my old phone just basically fried itself in 2022. Like
my goodness.
And to my dismay, a lot of them were not on my Instagram. They were on the Twitter that had gotten banned. But so as soon as I'm in shape enough for my costumes to fit again, I really need to do a lot of cool stuff again. And I'm thinking of changing the channel name to something a little easier to search, because I am very aware of how hard it is to actually find me. So far, there's one I like, Crypt of Cryptaxis, but I don't know if I should use that for the channel, or maybe that would be a little easier for like an Instagram or a TikTok or something. So
like I say, I do love the vinyl stuff that you had on there, because that's something I don't see as often on collector sites. I see a lot of the other stuff, but I don't see the vinyl as often. I see it, but it's not as often.
I would bet that's because vinyl is very, very, very expensive compared to a lot of the other stuff. Like somebody in a Facebook group for movies, they set aside a copy of, I think it's the Vinegar Syndrome Gorgo with the slipcover for me. Like that's $45. Like sold out. Like that's high, but it's for like a really like top end item. like for a vinyl record, like for just like a basic, it's like, hey, here's this really cool waxwork release of just, you know, a soundtrack. Like it'll be like $50. Like the low end for those soundtracks is, I think the cheapest. Sometimes certain ones that are like kind of low budget releases, like they have like a really kind of thin sleeve and they come in like this pretty cheap looking plastic. Sometimes I'll see those for like 20 or so, but most of the time, if you want like just a good vinyl release, it's going to be like $35-$40.
My goodness.
So it's a very, very expensive hobby. And a friend of mine here in Milwaukee told me, it's like, yeah, I just got a turntable and I just bought a couple of the Friday the 13th soundtracks. It's so cool. He's like, well, you know, take it from me. Like when you pick up a new vinyl, make sure it's something you're going to want to listen to a lot. Don't just buy stuff for the sake of buying stuff. And of course, I fell into that trap pretty much right away anyway, but at least I knew about it.
If I ended up getting a turntable, it would be just for the stuff that I really want to listen to. All right. Well, with that, good night, everybody.
I would use my turntable a little bit more if the sound system was set up to accommodate it better. Like I basically have to have the TV turned off to get it to play through the speakers, which is a hiccup in the way we had to set it up when I got the sound system.
Indeed.
Inside movies galore, just makes you just want more. We've had all in the world of media to explore. Horror, anime, or Curious George. Our love of new things was our reward. It is the best night of our week.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.